Welcome to Poland Daily Culture. On today's episode, we're here in central Poland in the little city of Łowicz. Behind me is the Łowicz Ethnographic Museum. We're going to be showing you around the museum and all the sites inside. So you're going to find a lot more about Polish traditional culture. So join us on another fascinating journey around Polish culture.
One of the monuments of Łowicz culture, from architectural monument and historical mementos to folk art, is the museum in Łowicz. It is located in the former seminary, designed by tillmen from Jemeren and erected at the end of the 17th century by the primate Michał Radziejowski. The museum sets out to inspire the visitors and sensitize them to the past and current traditions of the region by the means of exhibitions, cultural events, and educational activities. The history of the museum collection in Łowicz dates back to the turn of the 19th century and 20th century and is strongly connected with Władysław Tarczyński, a collector and a social worker. He made his collection available to the public in 1905 and called it the Antiquities collection. The museum developed rapidly. It owned over 3,200 exhibits and a library until the outbreak of the First World War. Władysław Tarczyński also included objects and tools from the field of ethnography in the historical artistic collection. The Ethnographic Museum of Polish Tourist Society opened in 1910 and based on the collection of an outstanding social worker, Aniela Chmielińska. The collection of the Municipal Museum and the Ethnographic Museum was originally located together in a building purchased for the museum purposes at 16 Staryrynek Street, which was opened to the public until 1939. The period of the Second World War caused subsequent losses in the museum collections. The National Museum in Warsaw took over both collections in 1948 and formed its department. Connected collections were given a new residence in a reconstructed religious building dated from 1689. Owned by the Cardinal Michał Radziejowski Foundation, the branch of the Baroque art in Poland is situated in a former primate chapel dedicated to Saint Karol Borromeusz. It is an original flank of the 17th century building, which wasn't destroyed during wartime. The interior vault is designed by tillmen from Jemeren and is decorated with illusionistic frescoes by Michelangelo Palloni, showing the life of Charles Borromeo, a patron, missionary, and bishop of Milan. It's the best example of the Italian painter's artistic work in Poland from the turn of the 17th and 18th centuries. The paintings perfectly harmonizes with the stucco decoration on the vault and walls. There are also examples of artistic craft inside, such as furniture, fabrics, glassware, goldsmith, work, porcelain, painting, and sculpture.
Just looking around us here in this little room, first thing that strikes me is this kind of chandelier which you have referred to as the spider. Could you tell us a little more about this?
This is a so-called spider. It was a decoration which was usually found in the holiday room, in the beautifully decorated room. The inhabitants of Łowicz typically modeled their spiders on chandeliers. Chandeliers were seen in churches. They would have candles which would be lit, but this would not be a problem due to the fact that these buildings were very large. Such a chandelier could not hang in here, for example. It would simply be impossible. This is where the idea for these spiders derived from, the idea to create a decoration that will be based on the chandeliers. These were the most commonly used materials. Thread was used too, of course. This is how the spatial construction was usually hung, in the center of the ceiling.
Walking around the museum, particularly on this floor, the most noticeable thing is the clothes and the display of clothes. Now, very colourful, all sorts of different colours, and I'm wondering, what is the significance of the different colours? Do they represent something, the different colours?
Tak naprawdę to
In fact, these different colors used represented the different times in which the items of clothing were manufactured. One of the first costumes from Łowicz are mainly red in the background. The fabric used is made in a way that it has a set of strips and a set of what can be called background, which is the smooth part of the material itself. This background was initially red, then the influence of fashion changed this color to orange. There are things that happened in these costumes from Łowicz before the First World War. However, after the First World War, chemical dyes appeared that could be used to dye wool in a wide array of different colors. This is why we see green, various shades of blue, pink, or purple. These are the costumes that appear to this day, as these became the fashionable colors. They are very characteristic of the Łowicz costumes, even though their story began from the use of those earlier colors.
wcześniejszych.
How long have people been wearing these traditional clothes? You know, when did it begin? I understand there's a kind of evolution to the different styles of clothes. What's the kind of oldest style of clothing that you have here?
Początki tych strojów to jest
The origin of these costumes goes back to the 19th century. Here in the Łowicz province, research was conducted by Aniela Chmielińska, who was the initiator of the ethnographic collection, and many exhibits from her collection can be seen in the museum. She began to investigate the first costumes in the beginning of the 19th century. They did not look as beautiful yet. They were not this colorful or striped. These changes would take place very slowly. Thanks to this research, it was possible to determine which color schemes applied in specific periods of time. When it comes to the outfits made after the First World War, these are outfits on exhibition from the 50s and 60s. The colors used are fashionable to this day. If today someone orders a new Łowicz costume, the fabric would be prepared just for that, and using many shades of green and blue, as these are now the most fashionable colors.
mniejsze kolory.
Could you tell us about the types of material used here? I see there's a kind of linen making or linen producing machine there. Is it purely linen, or are there other materials used?
To znaczy, jeśli chodzi o
When it comes to what the costumes are made of, it is a linen flax, 100% linen. This means both the warp and weft are made of flax, as well as wool, which has a linen weft. This means that underneath is the linen weft and a colored woolen thread on top. Both the preparation of the wool and the preparation of the flax were tasks handled mainly by the Łowicz people. They would obtain the flax from a plant and the wool from sheep, and they would process the raw materials accordingly to receive linen and woolen thread in order to create the fabric.
wywali tkaniny.
And what are the most appealing outfits for you? What are your favourites from all the evolution of the...
No ja myślę, że najbardziej chyba lubię
I would say that I like the outfits with the orange background the most. These outfits right before the change, before the outbreak of the First World War, were really very colorful. However, the outfits later would more commonly use colors like green or blue. This became very popular in the clothing. So to me, this orange is somewhat antique or vintage.
zabytkowy, powiedzmy.
Mariana, Munka, thank you very much for joining us here, Poland Daily Culture.
Dziękuję bardzo.